Hello, friends. How are we today? I'm Nick Roush. He's Adam Luckett. Is this a good gym dance for you?
I couldn't tell if that was NFL gym dance, Final Four, give my tie away gym dance, or Masters gym dance.
Many people are wondering is gym dance done with the
Final Four, yes.
he's done with Final Four.
I can't remember who they.
Brett Nessler.
Is Nessler calling it?
Nessler's
I
gonna
didn't
call
know
it.
if it was him or Eagle.
Wait, it might be Eagle. Come to think of it, I don't remember. Is gym dance done doing NFL games? That's another speculation.
No, he's not done yet. I don't think.
Not yet. Okay.
Who would you be your vote, CBS, to plug in for him if he was done?
Kevin.
Eagle?
No.
Kevin Harlan?
Kevin Harlan. Kevin Harlan's the best. But he's so good at radio, too. I think Kevin Harlan, very underrated. Love him as a broadcaster. Not a big fan of the CBS crew in general. I mean, Romo just,
He was all over the board Sunday for the Super Bowl.
It just wasn't, I don't know. And it feels like Tony, I get it, you're Tony Romo, just do the Tony Romo things. Didn't feel like he's made Nance, worse. I feel like he's taken some of the big game out of Jim Nance doing football.
These are Super Bowl, Jim. These are the games that matter.
What would you know about the Super Bowl, Tony? Nothing. Nothing at all. What we know is that we're here at 11 Personnel, presented by Monticello Bank, to talk to you about Bush Hamdan, where today he was announced as Kentucky's new offensive coordinator, the 5th new play caller in the last 5 years, the 6th offensive coordinator of Mark Stoops' 12 years at Kentucky. And Luckett, I think the people are here because they want to know, did he win the press conference? Is Bush Hamdan going to be the guy, the right guy for the job?
Yeah, here at KS Bar in probably 5, 6, 16 years when the Stoops era is over, a trivia question will be name all of the Stoops offensive coordinators.
The bonus will be the wide receivers coaches. That one you really got to dig deep. A lot of names there.
And so I think Bush Hamdan today, Nick, we talked about what is the goal for the Sire. I think we kind of got that confirmed or played out today, right? They want to stay in the pro-style family, but they want to be more college-ish, I get the best way to say. They want to get off plays faster. They want to not break the huddle and go slow as molasses. I feel like I'm going to say this 1,000 times over the next 9 months. Just because someone doesn't huddle doesn't mean they're a tempo offense.
Oh, we've got to emphasize that. But it still is, though, music, I think, to most fans here, just point-blank period, our base offense is no huddle. Now, it'll be no huddle, and then you look over to the sideline.
And I think even the huddles they get in will not be the traditional 7-8 yard circle huddle off the ball. If you kind of go and watch Bush Hamdan's previous team, it was like a huddle 2 yards from the line of scrimmage. The receivers don't get in the huddle. It's just the lineman. QB gets the call, tells the lineman, and then they turn around and line up. So even then, the operation of that is quicker, right?
Yes.
Less moving parts. Where before, it's the old school. Like when we grew up playing football, it's guys from the sideline come in, bring in the play, call the play, get to the line. I think Kentucky, they're going to expedite that process, and I think that was a big part of the search for Mark Stoops. I think they wanted to find something more like college football modern, I guess is the best way to put that. And I think Bush Hamdan checks those boxes. And I think the big takeaway for me, Nick, he's good behind the microphone today.
Oh, yeah. Which helps you win the press conference.
A good talker, but he has points he wants to make, and he gets those across. And I think that occurred today.
Yeah, there wasn't a ton of flowery language. So let's kind of get into the specifics because, as you mentioned, first and foremost, no huddling. That doesn't mean no huddle. We're doing Josh Heupel running plays every 10 seconds. The old Art Briles running, just going 100 miles an hour. I do think, though, even when you're not huddling and you're just getting to the line and you're calling the plays from the line, having that as your base, it allows you to be more comfortable when you do need to go fast, right? So that I'm not.
It's built in the infrastructure of your offense where
exactly.
You can do that.
Because think about, even Cohen, when they were successful in 2021, the one thing holding this team back is, and why you saw him so excited on the field after the Citrus Bowl, is they finally got a 2-minute offense to work. They finally moved the ball effectively down the field. They were able to play fast. That was the hardest thing for that offense to do. And some of it goes back to this college-friendly thing where you don't have to use such long verbiage to get into play calls, right? And I also think there's a difference in spending all of your time in the NFL and then adapting to college versus going to the NFL, learning it, and then implementing some of those schemes and concepts into your college offensive style.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say Kentucky's offense the last 3 years was an NFL-first offense that brought to college.
Yes.
And where I think with Hamdan, it'll be more of a college-first offense with a blend of NFL
Correct.
structure.
And what exactly that means, in the way that Hamdan put it, is that your passes look like your runs like look like your passes before the snap. And maybe even, a few seconds into the snap, right, where you got play action and different things, and you accomplish that by changing up motion, changing up formations, and changing up tempo. It's a lot of just trying to keep, because like the name of the game here is how do you put the defense on their heels? And the pro style tries to accomplish that by keeping them guessing before the snap and then right as the snap happens.
Right. Winning the pre-snap fight, right? Like, that's really what it's all about. Winning the pre-snap fight, not giving it away. Trying to, if the defense wants, make the defense show their hand and then counter to that.
Like we saw, I forgot what broadcast it was during the NFL where they talked about the percentage of motions just tripling in the last 3 years.
Yeah.
Because that's, in the NFL, it is more of a chess match and trying to see, all right, are they in zone here? Are they in man? Where's the blitz coming from? Using those running backs in different ways out of the backfield. So from that aspect, the big picture, what's the offense going to look like? And I think the other part too is, do we feel confident that he is a competent offensive coordinator? And just from his demeanor, the way he carries himself, there is a little bit just his overall demeanor that you're like, okay, like this guy, I like the cut of his jib, right? Like he's not out here trying to be a big showboat. He's just trying to convey his message and be as straightforward and direct as possible.
Yeah, I think we've written about it. Just go look at the numbers. Like, if you don't think he's a good coordinator, I don't know what to tell you. The numbers are good. They're not, I wouldn't say like he's the second coming of Lincoln Riley or whatever, but he's had good, productive offenses at all three stops. And even at Missouri, they did some good things. To me, I think what'll be my bigger takeaway, from today, Nick, is that running the football. Like, that was a big talking point. Like, Kentucky has a style of play. It's running the football. It's being able to run the football and maybe mixing in some more college-type run game. Now, what do you mean by that, Adam? I think QB run, number one. Like, he talked about that today.
Love to hear that.
How big of a deal that is and how much you want to take advantage of that. In the last 3 games at Missouri in 2022, when he took over play calling, Brady Cook ran for over 300 yards. Ran for over 100 yards against Tennessee and over 100 yards against Arkansas. So against SEC competition, he had big games.
He said that the quarterback needs to be able to run for 2 first downs a game.
You're right.
Which is, you saw that in the Super Bowl.
He said it's a critical part of an offensive plan for his offenses.
Which is a nice juxtaposition compared to the other guys who were dragging their feet. Cohen finally budged halfway through Will Levis's first season. He really couldn't do it with Leary last year, but Scangarello drug his feet.
Right, and I think you look at all that and you kind of just got to look at it through the prism of Kentucky in 2024, right? We think the offensive line will be improved. They've got all these pieces returning. I think they'll be improved, but at best, it's probably going to be a middle-of-the-pack group in the league, in the conference, probably like lower middle. We're talking, I would say 9th to 12th. It's probably, if they got there, if you were going to rank offensive lines, I think you would take that right now at Kentucky. And so there's going to be situations in the season where they're going to have some difficulty blocking people up front. What helps to get your run game going if a quarterback can zone read it? If you have that, if a quarterback you can sneak in and draw scrambles even, that can help your run game. And I think that's a big part of Hamdan's offense. And we heard him talk about being able to run the football. We've been able to do that all 3 stops, and then getting the explosives off the run game. So that aspect still isn't going to change. Kentucky's play action with Cohen, I think was, excellent, really, his 2 years here. I thought their play action stuff was very, very good. Even at times where they couldn't even run the ball well, they could still play action and get guys open that way. I don't think that's going to change, but I think a big takeaway I want people to have from this is that, one, he wants them to be more efficient, and that is a big goal, but staying explosive is also a goal. And he talked about how big of an emphasis they're going to put on that, about being able to be explosive specifically off of that run game in the pass game.
That was his first 3 points. It was first, figure out what the hell these guys do best.
Right, figure out the roster.
And then 2, getting them to understand how to operate using different tempos. 3, still being creative and to become explosive, right? Like finding different ways to get these guys the ball in open space so they can make big plays. I've got a question for you first, but Luckett, I do need to remind the folks out there that Monticello Bank is the proud presenting sponsor of 11 Personnel. They've been in business for over 125 years because they're putting people first. They're putting the numbers on your side to make sure you're getting the best rates, whether it's a car loan, which might need to be doing that soon, Luckett, sadly. Home loan, which you did just recently, or just some personal professional banking assistance. They're a local bank. They will get you the best rate possible where people matter. Monticello Bank, there's a location near you, and if there's not, NBCbank.com, or use the Go NBC mobile app. Bank wherever you go, wherever the cats go, with Monticello Bank. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender. Big shout out to Monticello Bank. It was fun, I was just, tuning in the news the other day. In the morning, I'm like, oh, there's the Monticello Bank ad. We have that on the podcast.
Hey, I know those guys.
Yeah, I know those people.
Like the DiCaprio off of
yeah,
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. There you go. The famous meme.
Which, by the way, did you see in the news the zoo's bringing the train back?
I did. We were talking about that at the house.
It is. If you're not from Louisville, even if you're not from there, you probably went to the zoo, rode the train when you were a kid.
It's been shut down a long time.
Yeah, and I was actually working for the law office that represented a lot of the people that got injured in the train wreck because somebody had it cranked up too high. So that's been about a decade. They're going to bring it back. And the biggest thing, Luckett, you probably get there next year. Baker will be old enough, but you'll have the boo at the zoo, right? The best part of going there as a kid was riding the train, and then the headless horseman chases you. Mm-hmm. Now he's just standing there on his horse. It's like, well, that's not as cool. Like he's just a guy on a horse.
I remember that when I was a kid.
Headless horseman chasing your ass. That'll put the fear of God in you. Which, speaking of fear of God, there was one part of this where Hamdan, he sounds like pretty professional.
Yeah.
When he's up there, he's not trying to, be Mr. Joe Cool. Shannon Dawson had a lot of Joe Cool to him when he was behind the microphone. Bush, pretty straightforward, but he does have a light. He brought a little bit of levity to the situation because every Mark Stoops play caller has been on the field kind of guy. Bush was asked, you going to be on the field or up in the press box guy? And he said, like my coffee. He's one of us, Luckett.
He is.
He wants to be in the press box just pounding coffees. And I can't say I blame him. And thankfully, he's not like Mark Stoops where he's got to have his sugary, milky, mocha, whatever. He's straight black coffee. One of us. One of us.
Do they have, in the coach's box, do they have a coffee maker in there, or do they have to come out and get one?
I've seen Drake Jackson getting a coffee from the...
I think I've seen Courtney Love out there too.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. I just didn't know.
Yeah. Which, by the way, is he too old for GA anymore?
I guess it depends. I don't really know. This would be his second year?
Is it second or third?
They might be the situation where they would move, like they did with TJ Conrad, move him into a QC spot.
Something random to keep an eye on. But that will be something different, adjusting to an offensive coordinator up in the press box. I do just like, though, that he straight up, if there's coffee up there, I like it, which was talking with my cousin on the way up to the booth at Cardinal Stadium, and we were just talking about the spreads at different stadiums. So, yes, there's a benefit to that, but you best believe those coaches, they know what the spreads are at the different stadiums just as well as we do.
Oh, yeah.
Which, by the way, Kroger Field. Come on, you name Kroger Field. Like, let's get a better spread up there. Let's get some Simple Truth. Let's get some Simple Truth products. Some seltzer waters. Some of their hummus.
Let's just get the popcorn back. Get the popcorn machine back cranked up.
Do you regular popcorn, kettle corn?
Regular.
Yeah. Although I did, the wife went to Sam's and she got the Smart Pop.
Yes.
And it was Dorito flavored.
Oh, that's dangerous.
Yeah. Oh, it's dangerous. And she didn't like it. So you've got to finish all this Dorito flavored popcorn next. So it's been great for the diet. What else about Bush Hamdan have we not talked about? He hammered home the college friendly thing a lot. Mm-hmm. We got that hammer out, hit the nail. And we haven't got to, he didn't just go out and say Brock Vandergrift's my starting quarterback. I don't think he mentioned any players by name.
He said Brock's name once in the press conference.
So it was Brock got mentioned and then
Jamori
Macklin. Those are the only two names mentioned. But I did like what he had to say about not just running the quarterback, but he said, I'm not going to take the job unless you like the quarterback room, right? Especially when he brought Malachi Nelson over to Boise State.
Yeah, I think he mentioned that, like, leaving Boise was, he said, the hardest decision of his coaching career. Just for everything that happened, right? They fire their coach, they still win the conference. Spencer Danielson, who'd been there forever, gets promoted. And then they go out and they get Malachi Nelson. They get two receivers from the portal. They get Ashton Genty, who will be one of the best running backs in college football this season, to stay at Boise State. So they had a lot of good things going there. So I think that wasn't easy for him. And then he said that he got called mid last week, Nick. So we would assume Tuesday or Wednesday he got a call.
Yeah.
The job opened that Friday before. So to me, I was like, did Mark Stoops wait 5 days to call someone? I don't think he did. That makes it seem maybe they might have pivoted to Hamdan.
Yeah.
That's what that seems like to me. So who that ended up being, we won't know. They had kept that search pretty locked up. There.
You can speculate about a few names, and maybe that's why it was a good thing that no names were leaked out, because then it doesn't look like that Kentucky whiffed on a Tommy Reese or a Will Stein or anything like that.
Yeah, and then I also think he brought up the relationship with the offensive line coach. I think it's going to be critical here with Eric Wolford. We all know Kentucky wants to run the football, and we all know they got to get better on the offensive line. And so Bush Hamdan's going to be a big part of that, along with Eric Wolford, like assisting him. And those two are going to build Kentucky's run game this season.
You mentioned it on a previous podcast, but I do think it is worth stating. We thought there was going to be some turnover on the staff.
Yeah.
But not necessarily this much on offense either.
Three out of 5 position coaches out. 60% of your offensive staff flipped.
And one of those guys is a new guy. So getting to gel is imperative early on. We still don't have specific dates for spring practice, but that's usually first or second week of March.
Yeah, I think they're still on a timeline here where I think they could still pull that off.
Peak, can you pull up when UK spring break is? Because they always get into.
They break it up around.
They get in 2 or 3 practices before because they can't go full pads right away. They got to integrate them. So they usually burn those before spring break. So Peak, if you can find those spring break dates for us, we'll figure out exactly.
Spring break is
11th through 16th.
So
usually
it'll be
SEC tournament week.
So March 11th through 16th. So that means we're 3 weeks away from the start of spring practice, if I'm not mistaken. It'll be in March. Carry the fourth or 5th.
Yeah.
So Hamdan doesn't have a lot of time. I'm sure much of the next few weeks is simply just watching film on these guys, right? Going to meetings, getting to know them. There's different rule restrictions as far as, I don't think they can see them throwing the football right now.
Yeah,
right?
I think, with that, it's a recruiting dead period right now until March starts back up. So
14 days.
Really, for him, this is a good time. Any new hire with college, this is a good time to get to know your roster, right?
Yeah.
And start to figure out the guys on your team and get acclimated with the personnel in your building. And I think and along with playbook implementation, pre-install type stuff, I think you're going to see a lot of that here Well, that's what will be happening. We won't see a lot of it, but that's what will be happening over there in the facility in the next 3 weeks. And then spring practice starts. Then hopefully Kentucky will have some open practices, and we'll be able to go out there and see what this Bush Hamdan and Brock Vandegrift match, what it looks like. I wrote about this week. It went live yesterday at KSR Plus. I really do think they align in a lot of different ways. Hamdan's had experience with a transfer. It was a 5-star quarterback that played at Georgia. So there was a lot of – Jacob Easton goes out to Washington. He plays for Hamdan for 1 year, becomes a draft pick. You know, had a good season, threw over 3,000 yards. Then I think you look at what he did Boise State with the QB run game. I think some of that fits Vandegrift, what he can provide to an offense. And so I think there's a good match between those two right then. And that I think that is exciting going into next year. And that's, I mean, if you want to talk about what's the two most important individuals on Kentucky's football roster in 2024, when I write that post, as I do every summer, that they might be 1 and 2 out the chute. So getting them on the same page and them building a good relationship, I think, is really important.
There is actually somebody that he already has a relationship with. That was the other player he mentioned was Jamori Macklin, because he's coached Jamori Macklin. Jamori Macklin was in his position room at Missouri when he was the wide receivers coach for Eli Drinkwitz for a couple of years before moving into QB coach and calling plays there for a little bit. So there's already a relationship established there. J-Mo, too. Great nickname. Like, wow, that's just an awesome nickname. So we learned about that today. He said he's a really hard worker. Wishes things would have worked out at Missouri, but they didn't. And now it's a full circle moment, which kind of brings us to the one quote that was brought up from the last press conference. Planting roots. It's Bush Hamdan planting roots. And he got asked about commitment, and he was smart to not make any promises because he knows, he's very well aware that he's bounced around a lot, and that's kind of the nature of this landscape in college football. But he also was I think he wanted that job in 21, didn't get it, and now he's got this opportunity. He was like, there's only so many of these jobs. I did find it funny when he was like, this doesn't happen very often. I was like, you haven't been covering 5 straight coordinator searches. But I'm curious what this buyout's going to be. Justin Rowland has said that he hears it's going to be a big buyout. We'll see about that. But at least he said one of the biggest parts, one of the most attractive parts of this job was the continuity and the relationship and the tenure that Stoops and Barnard have had over the last 12 years. Yeah.
The old university alignment that we get thrown out there every once in a while. To me, Nick, I think Pete Thamel leaks it out Saturday that they're a couple days away from reaching terms. It takes 5 days, essentially, for that to become public, for them to reach an agreement. I have to wonder if the buyout negotiations are part of that. I think that's a fair thing to be curious about.
Yeah.
So be interested to see what that looks like when UK does publicly release the contract term, not only for him, but for Eric Wolford as well. And you can understand it from UK's side, why they would want to do that. Yeah. Not necessarily to protect somebody from getting a job better, but there's a lateral move. We can already the Bucks job's a better OC job than Kentucky, obvious. Yeah. But was going to be the Rams non-play calling OC. You get it on the surface, but to protect them from release after 1 year, right? Yeah. To give them some protection there, and from Wolford leaving to take another OL job in the conference. Yeah.
Well, and the other part of it too is also you want to be able to. Kentucky's got to overpay. You just have to overpay for a lot of these positions. So in order to be able to, if your guy's leaving, you got to get something in return, right? It's a dollars and cents thing. So I think it makes sense from that standpoint. Those contract terms will be out within a week or two. It's typically how long it takes for it goes public. I believe we've got Dykel Shorts. What is he getting paid? You wrote about it, didn't you?
I did. It's towards the low end of Kentucky assistants. It's somewhere
$350 or something like that.
I think it might be $400, but somewhere around there.
Yeah. But yeah, once again, a lot of turnover. I don't want to leave Bush Hamdan, but I immediately said turnover, and I started thinking about all of the turnovers that didn't happen in the Super Bowl. So many fumbles, so many of them recovered. Let's talk Super Bowl for a minute, can we?
Sure.
Because I won a lot of money on FanDuel. I was this close to winning a lot more money on FanDuel during the Super Bowl because the parlays we gave out on KentuckySportsRadio.com, we just needed Pacheco to hold on to the ball. If he doesn't fumble it inside the 10, if he gets in the end zone, that's a 5-1 winner that we gave out. But still, we told you Chiefs money line, Patrick Mahomes MVP. Chiefs, they're inevitable. Make sure that you're getting in on the action. I know football season's over. College basketball season, this is where you got to, exercise those gambling muscles, right? College basketball, it's a beast. It's hard to kind of figure out the time right. Get it right now before the NCAA tournament starts by signing up for FanDuel. Use promo code PERSONNEL. Place a $5 bet. If that wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets when you sign up at 11personnel.com. We don't have 11personnel.com. What if we did? Like, people were just going to look up formations, they find 11 personnel. That'd be great. But no, it's FanDuel.com. FanDuel.com/personnel. Place that $5 bet. Get $200 in bonus wagers. But remember, must be 21 plus and present in Kentucky. First online real money wager only. $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued is non-withdrawable bonus bets which expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Got a gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Gosh, that Pacheco touchdown just really irked me because he thought he's got to get one of them in. And when the Hardman caught it out of the backfield, I couldn't tell what number it was at first. I was like, come on, be Pacheco, be Pacheco. But it was a boring, exciting game. I mean, it had a very Big Ten football feel about it in that first half.
To me, I saw all those takes, but I was like, where are you all on week 7? This is every NFL game. Like, are you just you're too focused on red zone, right? Like, you think that it's like this all the time, but this is how these games play out a lot of times.
Yeah.
Close, slugfest, and then boom. Like, I saw 12 Detroit Lions games like that this year. Where just kind of filling each other out and then a huge explosive fourth quarter. This is how NFL games work a lot of the time.
It's just that so far during the postseason, the Chiefs had struck early, kind of gotten hot. I think the Bills game might have been the one exception maybe to that.
And the Niners had fallen down big holes early.
Yeah. And that was part of the reason why early on I was a little nervous about that Chiefs money line bet. But when you were inching closer to halftime, it felt like
the middle 8 was huge.
It felt like the 49ers should have been up a lot more. So I went to that FanDuel money line and dipped into that live well and got him at plus 250 or so, which Chiefs plus 250. Cha-ching.
Yeah, the middle 8 was huge there because there was a third down or a fourth. It was third down, and I think they got the false start and made it 3rd and 11. They convert, and they go down and kick a field goal, right? What would that make it? 10-6 at half? Something like that?
No, it was 10-3. They were down 7.
Okay, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, whatever.
Either way, they get points there.
Yeah.
You don't get points if San Francisco goes out and scores. It kind of felt like the game would have been over.
Yeah.
So that was and they come out and get the stop out of half. So that was really that, and then the McCaffrey fumble was huge because they're going to score there, at least get 3. Mm-hmm. And that second possession, the second or third possession, they moved the ball. They really could have been up somewhere between 10 and 17 to nothing.
Yeah.
And they were up 3 to nothing.
San Francisco, and that's the thing with Patrick Mahomes is a lot of this game is being argued about just how they executed end of game, right? But not to steal a line from John Calipari, but they really did lose that game in the first half because they didn't pounce early on. Yeah. You have to make it almost an insurmountable lead in order to put Patrick Mahomes away because that guy won't die. He just won't. We've seen it time and time again.
Chiefs got a top 5 defense who've just been awesome all year, specifically against the pass. And they were just able to kind of figure out the Niners after the opening script from Shanahan. The clip got emptied. And so the big thing is they didn't get enough points out of that opening when they might have had like a little bit of an advantage over the Chiefs. And that was really kind of the game. And then I go to at the end when you're against Mahomes, like you just can't give him the ball back right there at the end, right? So they don't pick up the blitz when McDuffie comes from off the side. Like, you got to convert there. And you have to – either has to be a field goal at the horn or – like, that's – because if you give him the ball back, you're either losing or you're going to overtime.
Well, it's so funny because people were killing Dan Campbell for being too aggressive. And then the 49ers got too conservative. They're on the 9-yard line and you're kicking a field goal in overtime.
That's another one.
To give the ball back to Patrick Mahomes, you think the Chiefs are going to settle for a field goal?
Yeah.
Like, just go for it. I know it's probably a yard and a half further than you would like, but you don't have it's 4 yards.
Yeah, here's the thing with the overtime. If you go second, you control your destiny no matter what.
Yeah.
No matter what happens first.
And the Chiefs knew that they had to go for it on 4th and 1 and on the 25-yard line.
Because if the team doesn't score, then it becomes sudden death right then. Second team has the ball.
Yeah.
If they do kick a field goal, either you're going to tie it and give them the ball back, or you can go and score and win. Like, it's sudden death right away once you're the second team, and you have the ball. So and even if they score a touchdown, like, this is what I was trying to get across to people. Why would anyone score a touchdown to tie the game and then not go for two? Why would you give the other team the ball back?
There's no reason.
In a sudden death situation, when you have the ball at the 3-yard line, if you get it, the game's over. That makes no sense to me. Why would you give them the ball
It's
back?
much easier to score from 3 yards away than to get a stop and then go score from 60, 70, 80 yards away.
So when I hear Kyle Shanahan say we thought getting the ball third just was the way to do it, that makes no sense to me. Why would the Chiefs say, the only way that will work out is if you two teams get a stop, right? Or you kick a field goal, and you hold them to a field goal. But why would you trust your defense that they were going to, like, on that 4th and 4? You really thought you were going to hold Mahomes to a field goal again? I mean, they've done it all game, but, like, eventually the dam's going to burst. So, to me, like, in any of those situations, you've got, like, there's so many more pros, in my opinion, by taking the ball second. You control your own destiny when you take the ball second. You don't when you take the ball first.
Can I just say, too, why can't this be the overtime? I mean, they're basically doing college overtime, but with a full field. Why don't they just make it like that year round? I don't understand it. Because it would make it was funny though. Like, there was part of me that I was like, what? They're gonna let the clock run out. The clock's gonna run out. The game's gonna be over. But it's like, no. That's not how the rules work. If the clock would have expired and the Chiefs had the ball and it was still the first possession, they would have just done a different overtime, which is just hilarious. That's so silly. Just do college overtime. Each team gets a possession. You just got to answer back and forth.
Yeah.
Like, it just from a logical standpoint, and it's almost like they're jumping through all these hoops to get to the end point that they could have gotten to 15 years ago. And if you want to make it more difficult, say no field goals in overtime and do the college overtime rules, or start at the 40, right? I mean,
50, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this could be much, much simpler. I don't know why they just don't do that. But it was funny because you're scrolling through all the bets on Sunday morning looking on FanDuel, and one of them was game goes to double overtime, and I was like, has a game ever gone to double overtime? And we were a play away from it.
And I even look at it like, what the 49ers, what is your biggest strength? It's your offense and your play caller, right? So why would you take that away? That's why it doesn't make much sense to me. Like, even then on the 4th and 4, like, you got, like, your defense is in a better situation there since they're backed up, at least, where if you just need a field goal, if they get the ball at the 25 with Bucker, if they get across the 40, he's probably making it.
Right.
Inside. It was just, I just don't think they really thought that through. And I think college has taught us that going second, like, you just see, you want to control your destiny. How do you go about that? And you going second, you can win the game. No matter what happens on the first possession, you can win the game. There's 3 scenarios, right? You get a stop, they kick a field goal, they get a touchdown. In all of those, you can respond by winning.
I it dawned in my head, has anybody ever gone first in college and it worked out? And it happened this year. And we were driving back home.
That's right.
Listening to Coach Prime, and it wasn't Jed Fish, was it? Yeah, it was Jed Fish.
Fish went first too.
Yeah, they had no idea. Oh, yeah, that was when we were down at the bowl game. Gosh, some real. Where were we? I don't know. No, we were in Columbia. either way, some weird overtime decision making. But now we're stuck in a weird post-football world. We don't have the sense of urgency because there's not an offensive coordinator search. We're officially in the dead period. A couple things though that we didn't hit on with Bush Hamdan that I did want to mention because he talked about recruiting and he mentioned in his office. He's like, we get some pretty good guys coming in at Boise State. But the other part that I like to hear is that when talking about the transfer portal and other things, is he's like, this is college football. We're not going to complain about it. We're going to do it. You have to. You have to be able to do it. So
Yeah, I think just on that, nothing against like Scangarello or Cohen, but their goal was to get back to the NFL, right? Where Hamdan, his goal is not to be Kentucky's offensive coordinator. I think that's obvious. But his goal is to stay in college football and be a college football head coach. And so there's that. I think he just made that known, kind of saying that. It's what I took away from that.
Yeah. And that goes back to what we started with, where the college-friendly offense, it's more just integrating some NFL into a college system rather than vice versa. Because we got the Kyle Shanahan shout-out. I love that. Something about Shanahan McVay, they love the marriage of the run and the pass. It's a phrase they love. So we did get some of the kind of snappy words. Critical. Loves the word critical.
Yes.
Big fan of the word critical.
The most happy man, I think, of this hire should probably be Chip Trayanum. Right? He comes to Kentucky to be finally get a chance to be an RB1. Now they made a change, but he's playing for an offensive coordinator who's done nothing but produce 1,000-yard rushers each year. He's been a play caller.
Yeah.
He's playing for a head coach who wants to run that rock. Chip Trayanum. If you can get all SEC odds, I think you should invest in those because he's going to get the ball and he's probably going to run for 1,000 yards this year.
I like too that Hamdan talked about their explosive play percentage,
Yes.
their efficient. He was, hey, the numbers say what we are, and it's not.
A little showing his process is somewhat data driven as a play caller.
Yeah, and it should be because that's how. We tell the story first, and then to provide further analysis, we get into the data.
Yeah, I believe he said, if I think he was talking about out of formation or out of personnel. I don't know. Maybe
it was concepts. He was finding the concepts and personnel groupings that work.
And then seeing which ones are working and which ones aren't based on some of the data. If they're working, we need to run these more.
And not just out of field. Although I do, one of Brock's Vandegrift, one of the first things he says is when he got here is he's like, most of us colleges, we run the same stuff, right? We run the same concepts. It's just different names. And Bush was saying like, hey, he's probably been running a lot of this stuff since he was in 7th grade. So we need to know what he's comfortable with. So when there's 61,000 people in the stadium and it's nut cutting time,
right?
What can we go to that they're comfortable in, that they can do with their eyes closed? It's the puke play. I'm semi-pro. You got to, when in doubt, just run puke. And you can run that even after you puke. Just run it like you're blind. So,
yeah. And I think just on Hamdan in general, if you kind of just start to look at him, this type of play caller, he's shown evolution, I think, in the first 3 years, where they were different when he got a play calling opportunity in Missouri. It was a little different than it was at Washington. And then when at Boise State, you saw more QB run and more spread type stuff. So he's shown some adaptability, but he still does some things, in that pro-style family that Kentucky's going to like. They're still going to run zone. Like, they've been a heavy zone team. I don't think that's going away with him. They're still going to run some mid-zone, some mid-stretch zone. The stuff they tried to run the last couple of years with Scangarello and Cohen. Still going to do that. They're still going to play action pass. I think that's going to be a big part of the offense. But they're also going to sprinkle in more, I would say, spread alignments. Instead of breaking the huddle and getting the line at 10 seconds, they're going to get there with 22 seconds on the play clock. So that in general is going to allow you to run more plays. And so I think the phrase was college friendly. I think that's what you're going to see more of from a pre-snap operation and then from from an alignment standpoint.
Bush Hamdan, Kentucky's new offensive coordinator. He had a lot of nice things to say about Chris Peterson. We've dug into some of it already. There's plenty of quotes on the site. You can watch his entire press conference on the KSR YouTube channel. We're going to have a lot more from this throughout the day on Friday as well. But you got any more final thoughts, Mr. Luckett, on this new guy, the new guy? We've done this a few times now, and my biggest thing is just the question I started with: did he win the press conference? It's pretty easy to win a press conference, right?
Who's some famous people who have lost the press conference?
Yeah, it doesn't happen very often.
Dan Campbell lost his press conference. He got roasted.
Yeah, look how he turned out. Which I think that's he said some things.
No one cares. I mean, like, this is nice for today, but no one's
Yeah,
going to care.
and I think he really did make a good amount of
Good first impression.
Yeah, he made a good first impression on a lot of people were saying, "Who's this guy?" You know, you saw a lot of that on the board, just the way that he sold himself. I think a lot of people are picking up what he's putting down, but you know, the jury's out. We're not going to know until we know. And the next 8-9 months or so is just us trying to learn more and more to try to figure out, all right, this is kind of what we think it's going to be, but how well will that, how good's it going to look on Saturdays?
Right. I think you've got to revisit the Cohen leaves, or what do we think, or what are the checkpoints I think Mark Stoops is going to value? And we didn't get to hear from him today, so we didn't talk about it. But I think extensive college experience was wanted. He checks that box, right?
At the SEC level, too, and the Pac-12.
We've heard Brock Vandergrift talk, we've heard Mark Stoops talk, and we've heard them. They do have an offense. They want to stay in kind of that pro-style family, I would say. Yeah. I think he checks that box. And then I think they wanted someone who could help maybe – they're not going to be a tempo offense, again, but speed up the play-calling operation. I think last 2 years – Nick, I think the huddling and the breaking the huddle and the reading the play calls, they had some issues with operating efficiently in that regard. So I think they wanted someone who could maybe operate in a different structure, maybe no huddle or whatever. I think he checks that box. And the one I had was this hire's got to be a high floor hire to me. Like, they need to hit a solid in the gap double here.
Yeah. Instead of swinging for the fence.
We've seen them take variant swings, I think 3 in the Mark Stoops era. I think we've seen them take a huge swing on Shannon Dawson, who had a very minimal Power 5 experience and didn't call plays at West Virginia. And then I think we saw him take a big swing on Liam Cohen 1.0, worked out very well. They hit a home run there. And then they took a swing on Rich Gangarello, who had no kind of power conference experience. And that was a strikeout, obviously. And so I thought with this hire, they really couldn't afford another huge chance there, rolling the dice there. I think you had to hit a solid double, and I think Bush Hamdan is that. I think he brings a high floor to this football organization, and I think we're going to get into the season, and I don't think we're going to be 6 games in and we're going to be thinking this guy stinks, right? It's at other times that has happened where you got 6-7 games in, you're like, wow, this just isn't working. I don't think that's going to happen here. Now, how good he ends up being is to be determined, but I think he brings a high floor here. He's worked in the conference. Mm-hmm. Recently, he's worked in the conference. He's even called plays in the conference in a small sample size and had success.
He's coached at Kroger Field.
He's coached at Kroger Field. I think there's some boxes here. And you kind of dig into him. He's had some success recruiting, which is big here because, that was one of the big things about the Scangarello hire. Take out the game aside, how long could you have gone with him with what he was bringing from a recruiting aspect of quarterback? And that's the reason they got rid of, why the Grant era ultimately failed, is because they couldn't recruit well enough at quarterback and receiver specifically.
In one of the boxes, too, that Liam Cohen wanted to check, and was one of the first things he talked about, was an efficient running game. Well, Bush has done that.
Even Cohen last year, before the Louisville game, says, we're still going to be pro style, but we got to figure out a way to maybe blend some college concepts and setups where we can play faster.
Yeah.
And that's what they just hired to me. To me, that's what he is bringing here. Yeah. Is that when even Liam Cohen went on record and said what they needed to do.
Yeah.
The guy who's replacing him is going to do that.
So it makes a lot of sense. One of my favorite things that you've pointed out throughout this process was you were digging through the tape and you found a Wildcat run on 3rd and short that scored a touchdown.
In the biggest game of the year. It's Kentucky offensive coordinator. Again, Chip Trainum should be a happy man. Chip Trainum should be a happy man. And I'm sure Prize Picks will come maybe with us again. If we get the over-under on Chip Trainum rushing yards, you know what one of Luckett's locks is going to be before the season starts.
Oh, run the damn ball. That's right. We'll run the Bush Hamdan ball. No?
Well, we'll have to work on nicknames.
Yeah. The Bushwhacker? You ever had one of those? Those are pretty good.
You know, could we do a Bush, like the old George Bush presidential campaigns? You could do Bush and Brock on one of those.
Yeah, you could. Bush Vandy instead of Cheney? I don't like Vandy for Vandegrift. That makes him sound like he's
I'm just do
stinking
Bush and
Congo.
Brock.
Yeah.
The Bushwhacker.
Bush Heavy.
Yeah, Bush Light.
Whenever
Could be the official beer of,
whenever goal line is Bush Heavy. Yeah.
We even got him talking about him losing sleep over, do we have enough 2-point plays
On the 2-point menu.
on the menu?
So I love calling it a 2-point menu.
Yeah.
Because I want to open up it makes me visualize the play call. What do we have here? Ooh, the 2-point menu. I think I'll take one of. It's like you can't read. You don't know what language it's in. You're at the Vietnamese restaurant, so you just take. I'll take K2.
Yeah.
K2.
And overall, I just think they're heading into a big year. We all know this. We've talked about this hundreds of times. But I think there's a lot of real, legitimate reasons to be optimistic about this offensive coordinator hire. We'll see how it plays out.
Mm-hmm.
But this is a guy who's had nothing but efficient offenses, top 40 in success rate every year. Every offense he's been a part of as a coordinator has thrown for over 3,000 yards as a unit. And they produce 1,000-yard rushers each year. Throwing for 3,000 yards for this program has been an absolute freaking chore. So I'm skeptical that he'll check that box, but I think he checks some other boxes for Kentucky. And I don't think we'll see them dead last in place again, Nick. We'll see how it plays out. But just from an operation standpoint, they're going to move faster. And I think they're going to be more efficient, especially with returning all of what they return up front. So I think there's reasons to believe that this hire could work out well for Kentucky.
Could work out well. We'll find out. When's kickoff? I don't have the
August
date.
31st.
August? It's weird. It's like March Madness. Half of it's being played in April.
We get the double bye this year. For how this
Love a double bye. Love it. Just really stretch things out. Makes it last longer. We still need better week 0 games. Georgia
They'll
Tech.
get some flex.
Georgia Tech, Florida State doesn't move the needle for me. I mean,
it's better than last year's Notre Dame Navy.
yeah. I guess it could be worse. Well, we appreciate you all for tuning into 11 Personnel. We'll be back with more next week. Who knows what we're going to talk about, but we'll figure it out. Until then, enjoy some Bush Light. Go Cats and go Kroger.